don't know if you knew this, but Apple almost bought Tesla. Twice, actually. I know that we've heard a lot of stories about Apple and Tesla over the years, and even more from Elon Musk recently, but I think this whole idea of Apple and Tesla working together is a really interesting thing to think about, especially with the kind of resurgence of rumors about Apple making their own physical car, specifically an EV, that would go head to head with Tesla. So in this video, let me break down why these two companies are so important, why a relationship between them would be so beneficial to both parties, and how Apple exactly almost bought Tesla twice, and why the relationship between the two companies could not be more important and more distraught and broken now than it ever has been before. So to kind of back up a bit and give you kind of the basics and give some context to all of this, we have been hearing for years now that Apple is working on their own self-driving car. Not only a self-driving car that could drive itself, but one that a person would drive in the more traditional sense. We heard about this since 2013, 2014, where these reports emerged of the Apple Car or Project Titan, that Apple was working aggressively to hire different auto manufacturer executives that had kind of left the company for one reason or another, bring them in-house and help them to kind of craft and expertly assemble their own car to kind of shake up the auto industry. The idea behind all of this was that Apple was going to kind of shake up, break, reinvigorate, reinvent the car space like they had done with the iPhone back in 2007 to the whole phone and smartphone world. Apple was going to revolutionize the industry, shake everything up, and ruffle a few feathers in the process by showing everyone that they knew exactly what they were doing, and everyone else was doing things totally wrong, and only they were doing things right. And if you were just to think for a second about what an Apple car could mean on its own and in context of the automotive industry and even the tech space, there is a lot to get excited about. And I will be quite frank that I'm a big Apple fan. Obviously, as you can tell by some of the things behind me, I love Apple and I also love Tesla. And I think having a good working knowledge of both companies and respect and excitement for both companies really allows me to kind of think about what this car could be like. And for you guys as well, if you know Apple or know Tesla, you know that the idea of an Apple car probably shares a lot of the same DNA from both companies. Obviously, it would feature cutting-edge technology. I'm sure Apple has some of the most brilliant minds in terms of software and hardware design and engineering on the planet, so the software inside the car would probably be impeccable and have seamless integration with the watch, the phone. Other Apple products, I'm sure, would work seamlessly and effortlessly with this car in a lot of cool ways, a lot of which we probably haven't even thought about. I'm sure also Apple would take kind of their area of expertise with product design, and even in this day and age, they're designing a lot of buildings and a lot of structures. There's a lot of industrial design experience that Apple could take from their products and translate over to a car. I'm sure it'd be very premium. It'd have a lot of minimalist attributes, probably look very similar to what we have with the Model 3 and Model Y, and Apple would kind of craft that into their own image. Obviously, it would also probably feature a lot of Tesla DNA with self-driving car technology, a lot of cutting-edge, industry-leading technology built into this car to really set it apart from the rest of the pack. I could go on and on and on, but suffice it to say, the idea of an Apple car makes a lot of sense and is also very exciting. Now, all of this Apple car stuff is really cool on its own, but what specifically does it have to do with Tesla? Well, kind of in the flurry of news about the Apple car stuff and the resurgence of these rumors, Elon sent a tweet to someone kind of in this Apple car context, which was actually kind of a bombshell in and of itself. He tweeted this: "During the darkest days of the Model 3 program, I reached out to Tim Cook to discuss the possibility of Apple acquiring Tesla for 1/10 of current value. He refused to take the meeting." Now, this is kind of a bombshell for so many different reasons, specifically that this is the first time we've ever heard any concrete evidence about Apple and Tesla working together. There had been obviously rumors about this for a while, we had heard analyst speculation, but this is not any kind of hearsay. This is coming directly from the Tesla CEO himself. Elon Musk himself confirms that there was, in fact, at one time, not only a discussion about an acquisition, but pretty bluntly, a acquisition offer or an attempt from Tesla over to Apple, and Tim Cook didn't even take the meeting, which leads to a lot of questions as to why he wouldn't and what's the bad blood that exists between Tesla and Apple and why does it exist in the first place. And before we sort of get into the bad blood in the relationship, let's just think on kind of a surface level of why an Apple-Tesla partnership makes so much sense. Why is it beneficial for both companies? And again, to be quite frank, this is beneficial for both Tesla and Apple. This is not a one-way street, and a partnership and kind of a combination of the two companies together on a project would be really good for a lot of specific reasons. Let's take the Tesla side first. We're going to make an educated guess that dark days of Model 3 production is probably around 2017, 2018, where Tesla, like they often found themselves, were on the brink of bankruptcy and desperately needed cash. Obviously, an acquisition from Apple is going to alleviate any kind of cash flow problem ever. Apple is one of the biggest companies in the world. They're one of the most profitable companies in the world. They're one of the richest companies in the world. Apple has a stockpile of cash, more cash on hand than most small countries. I think there's some kind of crazy statistic out there. They've got hundreds of billions of dollars in cash on hand, and Apple has the ability to fund a lot of crazy projects and pump a lot of money into R&D and production that Tesla just couldn't do on their own, specifically during this time. So obviously, Apple would give them access to a lot of cash really fast. There's also a lot of benefits to the assets that Apple has to offer Tesla. Obviously, Tesla has some of the most brilliant minds on the planet working for them in terms of design and research and development and production in the automotive space and battery technology. But Apple also has some brilliant minds of their own as well in product design, in engineering, in software development. Apple has also some of the smartest minds in the world working for them as well. So if you could combine the brain power of Apple engineers and Tesla engineers together, there's a lot of amazing things that can happen when those two minds get put together. You also have a lot of executive experience. Obviously, Tesla has the experience building cars, but Apple has experience in the consumer electronic space, in manufacturing. Apple also has a lot of pull with government agencies and a lot of clout with manufacturers. Apple's probably able to get stuff done a little bit more seamlessly than Tesla could on their own because Apple is Apple. And then, of course, Tesla is getting immediate access to all of the software and hardware that Apple has to offer. Not only the stuff we have today, but the stuff deep in the labs, in the R&D phases, and also patents, an incredible catalog of patents. Tesla would get immediate access to a lot of groundbreaking, revolutionary technology that they would not have access to otherwise. So there is a lot of upside here, a lot of big wins for Tesla if an Apple-Tesla acquisition was in fact able to happen and go through. But again, Tesla would not be the only one to benefit from this acquisition. Buying Tesla for about $60 billion would not be a act of charity from Apple. There would be a lot for them to win and a lot of upside for them to get from this deal as well. Specifically with the kind of, I don't know how to say this, the real world application. Up until this point, and specifically during this 2017-2018, Apple has not built a car. Apple has not released a car. Apple has not publicly talked about releasing a car. So gaining all of this stuff from Tesla in terms of personnel and in terms of the patents and everything that they have, that's great. But Tesla also has the experience. They have put kind of their money where their mouth is, and they have been building and producing and marketing and really releasing these cars for many years now. Tesla has experience going through the whole gambit of the process. They have done this from start to finish, something that Apple just hasn't done. It's one thing to talk about designing, manufacturing, and selling a car, and it's another thing to do it, and Tesla has in fact done it, and they've done it quite well. Another big benefit for Apple here would be Tesla's Autopilot full self-driving suite. Again, it's not just concept. Tesla has had cars on the road driving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of miles on autopilot around the world. There's not only access to the hardware and the software, but also the logs, the actual user interaction with that software and hardware combination that Apple could use for their benefit. We don't know where Apple was during this 2017-2018 timeframe on their own self-driving technology system, but it's a good bet to make that Tesla was probably ahead of them and making leaps and bounds of progress that they just weren't making. And an acquisition of Tesla would give them access to arguably the best autopilot system on the planet, with a lot of room to grow into the full self-driving suite. Tesla's making a lot of progress in this space, and it is really hard to argue otherwise. And last but certainly not least, another big upside here for Apple is access to the manufacturing manufacturing, the R&D, kind of the backbone of car manufacturing. Apple has a lot of contracts in place building phones and tablets and computers and stuff like that, but they have not built a car. And there was a rumor that Apple was looking to work with other manufacturers to build the cars because they just don't have the backbone and the infrastructure to do it. We also know that Apple really loves to do as much in-house as possible. They love to own as much of the process from start to end as possible, and acquiring Tesla would allow them to be able to do that. They would immediately gain access to R&D facilities, custom machinery, and most importantly, a manufacturing plant where they could actually build a car themselves. They wouldn't have to rely on another manufacturer. They wouldn't have to rent factory space from someone else. They'd be able to start tomorrow, the next hour, building whatever they wanted to from these factories. The Fremont factory is in place. The factories over in China are in place. There is a whole infrastructure here, a kind of a curtain, so to speak, all these processes that are already in place that could allow them to produce a car like that without having to really give it a second thought. That infrastructure that Tesla has put into place and what they have labored over the last couple of years cannot be understated enough, and it is an incredibly valuable asset that Apple could gain from a Tesla acquisition. So suffice it to say, an Apple-Tesla partnership would have been a win-win for everybody. This would have been a great thing. Elon would have gotten richer. Apple would have gotten their car. Everyone would have walked away happy. So what happened? Why didn't this partnership go through? And why is it never going to go through? Why are Apple and Tesla supposedly not even on speaking terms? I think there are three main reasons why this is happening right now, with one of them being extremely insightful and extremely telling. First things first, there might have been a scenario where Apple no longer needed Tesla during this time when Elon reached out. We had heard conflicting reports about where Apple was with their car project, though it's very interesting to see that right around this time, 2016 to 2017, 2018, we had heard reports that Apple was significantly scaling back their own internal car project, switching gears on building an actual physical car to just building the self-driving technology that they would then license out to other auto manufacturers, kind of like CarPlay, where they build the software as a service and then they license it out to auto manufacturers to implement as they see fit. That is what we heard Apple was going to do in efforts and in regards to their car project. So maybe it was a scenario where Apple just didn't need what Tesla had to offer. Obviously, they would love to buy the Autopilot suite, but they weren't going to spend $60 billion to then get a bunch of manufacturing processes and factories and employees and all this stuff they just didn't need during this time. Also, there's a other argument that maybe Apple was so advanced and they were so far ahead during this time as well that they also just didn't need Tesla. They just could focus and kind of pave their own way ahead without them, and they just really didn't need what Tesla had to offer. I would probably argue it's the former rather than the latter, but either way, could have been a possibility. Scenario number two is that the optics just weren't good. If you know anything about Apple, you know that they are incredibly slow. They're cautious, they're calculated, they are not quick to do anything, and they only do things when they deem it is appropriate and in a manner in which they want to proceed. Tesla is kind of the polar opposite. They make a lot of bold claims, they develop openly, they make a lot of future predictions, and sometimes some crazy claims from Elon that don't exactly materialize or affect the stock price in a very negative way that Apple would never, ever want to get anywhere near in terms of happening to their own stock price in their own company. So there is something to be said about the optics. The optics just weren't good. The combination of Elon and the mismatch of company culture in combination with kind of Elon's management style and unpredictability, it just wouldn't be a good culture fit. I think that there were some PR nightmares that Apple wanted to avoid. Tesla's PR, though very good in a lot of ways, is not stellar and perfect. They've had their own PR blunders, and I just think that the optics just weren't good enough for Apple to proceed with that deal. They are extremely careful, Apple is, of who they work with, who they associate themselves with. Tesla would have been a very big burden for Apple PR to carry because those optics are very important, and for Tesla, it's not so much the same. And last but certainly not least, the reason I think is the most telling of all is that Apple already tried to buy Tesla a few years earlier, and Tesla, or specifically Elon, turned them down, which meant that they were dead to Apple. If you know anything about Apple, they hold grudges forever. And if you turn down an acquisition offer from Apple, they are going to forge their own path without you, and they will never talk to you again. So to give some context to this, around 2013, we've heard reports and some rumors that Tesla, like again, they were back in 2017, 2018, they were on the brink of bankruptcy and needed cash, and that Elon was privately, very quietly, taking bids for someone to come in and buy Tesla. We had heard that a potential deal with Google almost actually materialized and happened. There was some paperwork actually drawn up that would buy Tesla for $11 billion, and it would secure Tesla as a wholly owned subsidiary and would keep Elon at the helm. So Google couldn't break up Tesla and just take away some of the pieces and some of the software and some of the employees. It would remain its own entity, and Elon would remain at the helm. And in fact, what we heard was that it almost happened for that $11 billion price, but Model S sales picked up and things were okay for Tesla. And we know how that story ended up, and Google obviously did not buy Tesla. But we also heard that Apple made a serious bid to acquire Tesla around the same time as well for $240 per share, which would have valued Tesla at roughly $28.5 billion back in late 2013, which would have been actually a $10 billion price premium over its current market cap then. So it would not have been a crazy bid. It would not have been unthinkable. Still a lot of money, but actually a pretty fair offer from one of the richest companies in the world that obviously had a lot to give Tesla, and Tesla had a lot to gain from an Apple acquisition. And obviously, sitting here in 2021, we know this deal didn't happen, obviously, and we don't really know why. We don't know the specifics. We don't know how far it got, besides the fact that we do have multiple analysts saying there were credible reports of an actual bid taking place between Apple and Tesla, some kind of formal negotiation. But apparently one of the issues was that Apple wanted Elon to step away from Tesla, whether it was for management reasons or optics reasons, or they wanted to take full control of the company. We don't know, but that was enough of a sticking point for Tesla, or specifically here Elon, to turn down the offer and to forge forward without any cash or opportunity from Apple. And we know that everything worked out for Tesla, and Tesla was okay, but it makes sense now that when Tesla would come back a few years later knocking on the door of Apple asking for money, why Tim Cook would refuse to take the meeting. Apple will hold a grudge forever, just ask Gizmodo, and Tim Cook didn't want to even entertain the thought. They had given them a serious bid a number of years earlier. Tesla turned them down. So in terms of Apple's perception, Tesla was dead to them. They're their own entity, and Apple would work without them and forge their own way forward. I mean, I'm saying forge a lot, but anyways, that obviously didn't happen, and that's probably why my guess that Tim Cook didn't take that meeting is because they had essentially, been turned down by Tesla before, and they just didn't care about them now or ever anytime in the future. Which brings us now to where we are in 2021. Tesla is obviously doing quite well for itself with a $600 billion market cap. They almost, I think, were just shy of 500,000 cars delivered last quarter. They are doing very, very well and doing a fantastic job with their company. And now we have Apple, who is apparently back in this game, looking to get their own electric vehicle off the concept floor to the production floor sometime in the next 4 to 5 years. And I'm very curious to see what's going to happen between the two companies. It looks like Apple is really going to rival Tesla with their own EV, and I couldn't be more excited to see the competition in the space. As a big fan of both companies, I really love to see some friendly and healthy competition. It's great for the market. It's good for us as the end user and the buyer, the end consumer. And I think that this competition between Apple and Tesla is only going to push technology forward. It's only going to make battery technology more advanced, and it should just be very, very interesting to see play out in the next couple of years. Not something we're going to see tomorrow or next year, probably not for another 4-ish years or so. So we got a little time to wait, but I, for one, could not be more excited to see what Apple has in store and how exactly Tesla is going to how exactly Tesla is going to answer the fighting call from Apple. Anyways, what do you guys think of Apple versus Tesla? Would this have been a match made in heaven? Would this merger have made so much sense, and should it have happened? Or do you think the separation of Apple and Tesla is a good thing? It's only going to, make for a better car in the end for everybody here. Or do you think Apple is totally doomed to fail and Tesla is going to be number one forever? I don't know. I'm just curious. Let me know your thoughts down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I am Robert Rosenfeld, and I will see ya in the next one.